to share it to her. Send it to her so she can see it. Is that her in there?
Yeah, hey,
She
can
good?
you hear me?
You there?
Oh, cool. All right, we got it. I said yes, but we're not live. Mhm. Go, go live with Charm. Oh, why isn't it working? Charm, can you hear me?
There's a little box.
Charm?
What did you say?
She's not able to join.
How many boxes does she have?
I don't know.
Well, what happened?
Okay, we're live.
Oh, okay. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Charm. How about
I
you?
can't complain.
Same thing, you know. I don't see that we have very many people tuned in, so what I'm gonna do is send an invite. Give me a second, all right?
You got it.
So how are you doing over there?
It's a bit cold.
Of
It's a
course.
bit cold.
Oh, really, in the US?
Yeah. We're getting that snow from you guys. It was already in New York and it's in up north, up in Maryland. North Carolina really don't get too much snow.
Right. I
We're
feel you on
good that way.
that. I feel you on that. All right. So just give me a few minutes. Let's see who's interested in joining our live.
Okay. All we have is time, eh? Time.
That's right. As much as God will allow. So I guess the shopping malls were busy today for Boxing Day.
Probably. And then come tomorrow, they're going to be hollering they need help. No.
Kind of like Black Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yes. No, I refuse to partake in that. No.
I guess it's every retailer's. I guess the consumers don't profit from it as much as the retailers, eh?
No. And then you have to also too be careful because I've been watching a lot of facial expressions in the store where they're opening up these boxes and then, once you get to the cash register, you open up the box. Surprise, they didn't took out either all of it or, half of whatever it is that's supposed to be in the box. So that's the new thing now. So yeah, you have to be
Well,
careful.
like you buy things and the store itself, it doesn't have the content of what you think you're buying.
Not at all. Not at all. Sandwich. I bought some freezer bags, and when I went to open it, was already open. And when I looked, it was just like 5 of them and it was supposed to be 40. I said, so I just wasted my money. I'll take that loss. But now that's something for me to know.
So the scamming is worldwide, and it's not just in third world countries like what we're led to believe in.
No, ma'am. No, we've just seen the beginning of this. This is just the beginning, to be honest. A lot of misplaced people are here and hungry people do desperate things.
That's true, and more changes are coming. on my side of the border and yours after the holidays. I always say that I strongly believe that after the New Year's, people are not going to be as cheerful as they are right now. So I always say enjoy it right now, because when the ball drops midnight next week, there's some changes are coming for sure, you know? So
I would hope so. I would hope so. I would
yeah, but
hope so.
some of those changes is not in the common person's favor, you know? But I just want to let you know I'm recording this live because I am going to broadcast what we're here to talk about today, Miss Charm. So officially, Charm, thank you for coming to join me on my live today.
You're welcome. No
And
problem.
where you come, I just want you to say where you're coming from.
I'm in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
For real, and you already know I'm in Canada, Toronto. So, Charm, have you ever been to Canada before?
Oh yeah, I was adventurous. I was trying to live there. Yeah, I
And
tried it. It was good for the family wise, but once you step out of your comfort zone and have to deal with my people, no.
like African Canadian people?
Yeah, no. That's a quick way. In my mentality, they say I'm too American, and I guess so. I guess I am. No. The way
So
of
how do you find,
treatment and the way how they talk to you, no.
and you were getting this effect from Black people just as yourself in Canada?
Just as
Like,
myself. Not if they're not as dark as me, because you know I'm dark, but if not dark or darker, and you talking out of the side of your neck to me, okay.
so what can you kind of explain a bit more? Like how do you find you were responded to by the Black people in Canada? Is there a difference you find with the Black people in Canada versus the Black people in the US?
Yeah, no offense to anyone, not by a long, but for me and what I observed and what I've taken in, and this was on many different occasions. This wasn't just one time. This has been different occasions, going into Cumberland, going into McDonald's, going into different stores. Yeah, no, the approach and the way how they treat you is like, you can see the vision. Not even to know that I'm American. I look just like everybody else, but I guess I look American. And
So
there you can, and I read the room. I felt the room. That's something with me. I can read a room. And then the looks, and then and the language, which don't bother me because, you know, they have their language, I have mine. But I know how to
so
read the room.
so even though whether we're from Africa, the US, Canada, the Caribbean, although we are all part of one large community with one culture, but so many different subculture, you find that the Black community in Canada, they're not as
Were more judged. Yeah, they weren't welcoming. They weren't, hi, where are you from? No, there was none of that. There was no welcoming. And I'm not saying welcoming, but just put your guard down a little bit, just a little bit. Not
right.
everyone is evil. Not everyone has ill intentions. Just welcoming. Make someone feel welcoming. Just a smile. But if you greet somebody and your face is tight and you can feel the bad energy, That's not welcoming. Yeah.
And you're based in the US. When you've traveled from state to state, do you find that rapport the way you did here in Canada from your fellow Black brothers and sisters?
Not as bad as I felt it in Canada. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want anyone to feel any type of way, but Canadian Black Canadians, their mindset is like the Americans are the field niggers and they're still the house niggers. That's how I took it. That's how I received it. And that's how they were giving it.
Right. So because of that fact that the Black Canadians over here approach each other differently, as you could see, they're a little more uptight and what have you. Do you think that would make it harder for any form of advocacy between the Canadian government and the Black community? Do you think that the way how we connect to each other, you think that would be a prevention to the government actually taking our community serious? Because clearly we shun each other, although we look the same and come from the same place.
I would want to say yes, but then I think realistically in this, it's no, you're gonna have to find an advocate, someone that's gonna stand 10 toes down.
Right.
Someone that's gonna speak up the truth and not be afraid to be shunned, because they're gonna be shunned, you know? You're gonna speak about the injustice that's going on. And it's about time that someone brings it to light.
Right. So we were talking about the petition that's been launched within the Black community. Kind of a rundown what's going on. There's a lot of missing Black teens under 18 years of age. And as you could see, there's not much media awareness about it, you know? Not much media awareness and not much concern shown on part of law enforcement or the Black community in Canada. So you and I were discussing, I shared the website for, I guess you guys have the FBI in the States, we have the RCMP, right? And I shared their database, which gives you a complete list of missing kids, missing children under 18 across Canada. And what did you observe?
I have a question before we go any further with that. When did you put up this petition?
I would say about a week and a half ago. And I hate to individualize it as me, because I am part of a community, so if it concerns, I would say I initiated the petition, but it's definitely, the petition is not a one-man's show or a one-man endeavor. It concerns the entire community, you know what I mean? So I'd say about a week and a half ago. But the missing Black teens, the missing Black children, they've been missing for quite some time now. And there's a lack of media awareness. There's a lack of more effort made by the police to locate these missing Black kids. But there's something that really concerned me today, which should concern the entire Black community here in Canada. Because it's not just in Ontario where I live, it's all across Canada. I was able to look at the database and see all the missing kids under 18, missing from Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia, all across the country. And I I observed what you observed. Every other missing child under 18 from every other ethnic group, Asians,
Mhm.
the indigenous, white or Caucasian, when you look at their description in the RCMP's database, they show you their name, the first and last name, their age, their ethnicity, and their gender. And you observed what I observed. All, not just one or two where you could say, well, maybe they left it up. It ain't that case. From in each different province, all of the black kids under 18, their ethnicity wasn't listed, their last name wasn't listed, and their gender wasn't listed. So it's clear to see there's a biasness going on even from law enforcement. And we were discussing it, the lack of concern from the Black community in Canada. It's scary, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
really scary. And it's hard to advocate or do any form of activism if the community that you are advocating for seems A, not to care, or B, to be working against you. What do you think? If
First,
this
we
were the
need to
case,
take our blinders off. It's time for everyone to take the blinders off. Not because it's not happening to in your household or your family member. It takes 2 minutes to share. It takes 2 minutes to share when you see someone throw up a child missing, a teenager missing. It takes 2 minutes to share. 2 minutes. Then we have to get that Amber Alert change. It needs to change. The information data, it needs to change. All the information needs to go in. Something has to happen. Some questions needs to be answered, and you and the community are going to have to rally together and come forth and fight together, because you have answers. You have grandsons. Families have boys, girls. They're going to wait till it happens to them, and then they're going to say, oh, what happened to that lady who was talking about? Don't wait till when it's too late. That's too late. You want the Amber Alert to go out. You should not, of course, you're going to do Amber Alert yourself. But once that police officer comes in, Amber Alert immediately. Radio stations immediately.
The people from, say if this were across the border in the US, and you guys are finding that the FBI is listing missing Black children, and they're omitting their ethnicity, they're omitting their last names, and they're omitting their gender. How would the Black community across my border react to that? Would there be more of like an outrage? Or
there would be very much outrage, because then now I'm taking it as them just doing some 1945 information taking and not really taking accountability for each and every life that's being on that paper saying it's missing, that they need help, that their parents and their family members have not seen them. That's what it's saying, that they're just another soul just gone, just left. They just picked up and walked away. No information left behind, no nothing. That's that 1940 mentality. They need to change that. It's time. It's time.
What's your thought on the fact that when we think of racism and discrimination, we always think it only exists in the US? Are you shocked to be hearing this, that this kind of thing is happening in Canada?
I am. I really am, because that's a country that's diverse. That's diverse. I've seen every different shade of person, and you know what was the connecting factor? Each and every one of them spoke French. Each and every one of them spoke French. That's what was the connecting factor. So when I'm seeing it and hearing racism stuff now, I'm like, oh, so they are like the they are like the United States. Okay.
More so than the racism here, it exists more so than the US, and I'll tell you why. Because in the US, they're more vocal about it. They will tell you, if you go in certain parts down south in Alabama and Mississauga, they're going to say the N-word and tell you how to exit out of the establishment, restaurant, or what have you. But in
Thank you,
Canada,
Father.
it's subtle. And what makes it worse is that what's happening right now to the Black teens here in Canada, because it's not just the province in which I live, it's happening all across Canada. Now, to me, it's very scary when you're not giving these missing kids a gender, their last name, which are their ethnicity. Those are very important things to describe for a missing person. So
Their
if
height,
you're omitting,
their weight, their eye color, all of that is very much important information.
it's listed for the other missing kids, their complete description, what they were wearing. That information is not provided on the website for the RCMP, which is like the FBI in the US. It is missing. So what does that tell you? That if somebody doesn't have a gender, if they don't belong to an ethnic group, they're not really a human, they're objects and things. So we can't really say, well, Trump keeps talking about 1738. I've learned that in 1738, the US government wasn't sure whether we Black people counted as a whole human being. But you don't have that in the history of Canada. But their behavior, you're acting just like the people did in 1738. Because if I don't have a gender, I don't have an ethnicity, I don't have a last name, I'm not a human, I'm a thing. And you're seeing it played out right before you on the Royal Canadian Mounted Police website with missing kids all across this country called Canada. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? The racism here exists.
Hey,
But
it is everywhere then.
it's
But you
everywhere.
guys,
But what I'm saying is that in the US, you're allowed to share the news. Canada, we
and I
cannot
was about
share.
to say that I've never seen that on anything like world news. I watch world news.
We're not allowed to share the news on social media platforms. We're not allowed to share the news. And furthermore, what makes it that much more difficult, like the other day when that lady was she was on a live when she was turning off her stove by the police the other day. I saw how the Black community came together and protested, but we don't have that here in Canada. The Black community here is
There's no
scattered in
unity.
every single way. So it's harder
They're very
to do.
posh. I'm sorry, your Canadian Black people are very posh.
Well,
I told you, I observed them. They're very posh.
I have better choice words, but
No,
I'm alive.
they're very posh.
All right, call it posh then. So my question to you is, what advice do you have to the Black community? Because whether you like it or not, especially Americans and Canadians, we are connected. When Harriet Tubman freed them slaves, she thought coming to Canada was a refuge. But we're seeing now she made a mistake. because it's worse in the north than it is across the border. But the Black people in this country, especially in Ontario, they are so divided. What as a Black American, in your time, you probably had Jesse Jackson and other Black activists, and the Black people actually get out, get up, stand up, revolt, and protest. What advice do you have for the Black Canadian community?
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting. Because
Yes,
that one person, is going to help make a change. Keep making gathers. It's going to take a whole village to make your change. It's going to take a village. Just not one voice. You're going to need a chorus behind you. And you're doing it. We're signing
not
this petition. We're going to sign this petition. We have to take this step by step, because I see y'all Canadian is still stuck in that 1940s. They're Black. They did their work. They built this country up. We're done with them. They're not to be counted for.
well, it's harder to get through to the Black community here. You see, Charm, I never want this should not be about you are doing this, you are doing that. It should be you guys, you all. It's supposed to be
But it
of
has to
you,
start with someone.
right?
It has to start with someone. Someone has to be willing to make that stand. Someone has to be willing to be talked about, ridiculed, tore down in your heart. You've come from a strong line of you're there. So
Black
it's time for you now to recruit and tell them, come on, my voice is strong, but together we can go even stronger. We need to get this out there. We need to hear answers. We need to know why our Black kids are not being filled out on the bulletin like everybody else. Why are they age, weight, eye color, size? Why is the important information not put in?
it's missing, that's right. And what I'm trying to say, it could be my son or my grandchildren. It could be anybody, because you just never know when crisis comes knocking at the door. You see, but the thing is that people care most when it's them sitting in the hot seat. But our community, our Black community, not just in Ontario, all across this country, we're in danger. Because if the law enforcement is treating these missing kids as objects, what does that tell you about their endeavor to locate these children? What does that tell you? It doesn't speak very well. I wouldn't be confident in them if it was my missing, one of my children, my family missing. If you're not even putting their gender, like, so what, you guessed by looking, oh, it's a girl. So why is the dignity taken away from these missing Black kids in Canada? As you said, a country that likes to say, boast and pride itself on diversity. To me, it's very obvious. It's blatant racism, but it's hard to create change if the people who are members of the community seem complacent and seem as if they don't care for change. You know what I mean? That's what makes it that much harder. And that's why I asked you, if this were going on in you're from Durham, right? Durham, North Carolina. If this was
Winston-Salem.
Sorry.
No,
If
no,
this
you're
was
fine.
oh, thanks, honey. If this was Winston-Salem in North Carolina, how do you think the Black community would react?
You would see the surrounding boroughs come together.
Wrongly
then
killed.
you would see the surrounding boroughs come together. You would see Greensboro come. You would see High Point. Then you would see Kernersville come. You would see them come. See, you see how individual, but together we came together as what? A
One.
fifth.
So that's the difference between, like I said, we all are. Peter Tosh, one of the Whalers, he sang this song. He said, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. You know, we are Africans. I know we sometimes say, oh, I'm not an African, or the yardie say, me, I'm not an African, me, a Jamaican, but where we originate from, where the seed was planted, is the motherland. But there's different cultures under subcultures under one culture. So I'm just, what bewilders me, Charm, is why are the blacks that are situated in Canada, what went wrong where they seem to not to care about the well-being of themselves and each other, you know? I mean, we're here, black people are here. Before the Caribbeans and the Africans migrated, the first set of black people were here because Harriet Tubman believed that there was hope in the North, right? But there's been a disconnection somewhere along the line. Like the people, the black community here, they're very weak, very, very weak. Their mentality, you know what I mean?
They're comfortable of the treatment that they're receiving, or they could just be in complete denial and don't want to accept what's really going on in front of them. You know, that, oh, it's not happening to me, so, you know, I shouldn't have to worry about it.
Well, it's happening to all of us. Initially, I only spoke of 6 missing teenagers, boys. But when I dug deeper into the RCMP's database, there's a whole bunch of missing black kids, all within the same age group, and listed as basically objects, things.
John Doe. You might as well call them a John Doe. Their last names are not there.
Their last
Their
names
weight is
are not
not
there.
there.
Their
What is that?
gender is not there. Their
A John
last
Doe.
name. Because somebody, how did they get in that database anyway? A parent had to call, or a loved one had to call and say, my child didn't come home. My child's name is so and so and so. You mean to tell me you didn't get the missing person's last name? You mean to tell me the parent or the loved one didn't say my daughter or my son? Yet still, you're showing the public you don't give a damn, because you're not even identifying them as a girl or a boy. You're leaving it blank. So what does that tell you as a black person, how much law enforcement values you in this country?
They don't value you at all.
So shouldn't that be a concern for the black community?
It should. The normal, it should. It should ruffle their feathers. It should make them feel some type of way. It should start boiling their blood. If it's not just or simmer it, just a smudge. I'm not telling them to go out there and go start a war. No, it's time for you to open your mouth and ask questions. Because apparently somebody's not asking enough questions for them to keep doing this over and over again. You have found how many incomplete names on a database.
When
So
I
even
say
if you was to
sorry,
share this information, hold on, even if you was to share this information and that child made it across the border, if I was to see this child and call it by the first name, okay, I know your first name. How am I going to get a further attention of this child by not knowing his last name?
that's right. That's right.
How am I not going to be able to say, okay, he's been gone for 6 months out the being of his parents. Let me do some math and do some subtraction. He lost a little bit of weight. He lost about 20 pounds. That could be him. Let me call 911.
Wait, I'm
No, we can't
seeing
do
that.
that because you're missing information, which is dead wrong.
I'm seeing
It's, yeah,
that Clayton. He's joined our live. He said that we need more awaken, you basically to be more awakening and to be more unified. Definitely, I agree with you, Clayton, for
yeah,
sure. But
sir.
the
I
thing
concur. The
is, it's
blinders needs to come off. We're no longer running a horse race. Like we have blinders on like we running a race. No, we're unity. Our great grandparents and grandparents are gone. So now it's this generation that needs to come together as a village and come together. Because
that's right.
together, if we're separated, we can't do anything except for wave at each other. But we come together.
Exactly. Exactly. But sadly, like the mentality of the blacks here in Canada is totally different because I'm aware and I've seen where the black community has fought back. And yes, there's nothing wrong with fighting back in the right way, you know what I mean? It doesn't
In the
mean
right way.
not looting and
Sending
shooting.
emails. Send emails till your fingernails fall off. Keep calling. They're going to
Peaceful
get tired of you
protest.
calling.
Peaceful protests. But they're not, because basically it's like this, that I see that this Canadian government, they're like, well, if they don't care, why should we? That's the way they look at it. You see, there's different ethnic groups, like for example, the indigenous. After the black community, the indigenous people face the most discrimination after us, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
the difference between the indigenous and the black community, the indigenous will make noise. Right now, there's so many missing indigenous women from Canada that the RCMP, they don't really make an effort to find them, but they get out there with megaphones and they demand, yo, we want to know what happened to our missing women. They make noise, but within the black community, we act like we're still on the plantation. And no matter how much like the indigenous, they mostly live on what they call reserves up here in Canada.
Yeah.
You don't hear the reserves killing each other. The people on the reserves, they're able to live unified. But in the black community, it's black killing black. You know what I mean? So there's so much going on. There is so much going on. And it's very hard to come up with a strategy. How do we come? How do you get that village together to stand up and let these people know, yo, we need to be taken seriously. There are missing kids from our community, and you need to give them the same value you give the Asians, the missing indigenous, and the missing Caucasians. You know what I mean? And that is the most
Absolutely.
important thing right now. But you can't do it alone. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's say, for example, I went alone protesting. They'll be like, yeah, they call a paddy wagon and say I'm local. But
A paddy wagon for what? You're one person.
if they open the window and see 500 members of the black community saying, yo, you can't just dismiss us. You need to tell us why you have no qualms about showing how biased you are and how little you value those missing kids. They're kids, all under 18. You know what I mean? But you need the support. You need the community supporting each other.
There are a few more people that joined. want to know how they feel. Yes, would love to know. Come on. It's going to take a village. It's going to take the whole community to come together. That's the only way this is going to change, you guys. The only way. The only way.
Definitely.
I'm from Washington, D.C., and I live down in the South. Closed mouth don't get fed. You
No,
want change? You have to make some change.
exactly.
You have
Yes.
to make some. You have to want to change it. You have to want to make some change. You have to want change.
I didn't understand you, Clayton. I don't know if you want to join us and say
Come
it.
on. Yeah, I think he wants to join in.
All right, let me pull him in here. This is great, you know, because I mean, uh, okay, Clayton, I just sent you an invite to join my live, our live. Let me know if you got it, Clayton. I'm not sure if he did. Let me try again.
That's the only way change is gonna come. Clayton and anybody else. You
Exactly,
have to put
because
it together. You have to know, do I have to have a permit to have more than 200 people standing outside this building? If so, that means I know I'm going to go get a permit to stand out here. That way the police can't come and arrest us. Every step of the way. No, we're not going to argue. We're not even here to talk. We're going to put up our signs and say what we need to say.
exactly.
Nonviolent. Period.
Exactly. I mean, we wouldn't be stupid and storm down there like the animals
Whoa.
that they killed before.
No, no one is trying to catch a charge. No,
That's, but they,
no.
but they need to know that we're not sitting down anymore. Because posting it on social media is a strategy to create awareness. But to invoke change, it takes a lot more than hitting the reshare button. You have to get up and show up. And
I'm noticing, with your content and all these other contents that I'm seeing on TikTok and all these other things, when it's important stuff, I see that it don't get shared a lot. But if it's to spend money or act and show off half of my body part, say I'm God, Father, forgive me, I'm doing this with my mouth and putting in places that I have no business putting it. Oh my gosh, it is going all over the place. But let it be something serious with a real topic.
it's what people gravitate to, you know. They don't take anything seriously until it is their turn.
Not good.
No, it's not good at all. It's not good at all. And that's the pattern, you know. And that is a common thing in our Black community, Canadian, US, Caribbean, is that the things that we prioritize don't really matter, you know what I mean? As far
It
as
needs to be that Mima who used to be out on the stoop. Your kids be outside. They're outside. Mima is out there. She's watching all of the kids. Those times are gone, but they need to really come back. It's not you mind your business and don't worry about what my child is doing. Honey, it takes a village to raise a child. I don't care what nobody say, how they feel. It takes a village to raise a child.
but you mentioned something about war, but it's clear that there is a war waged on our Black community because these teenagers, Charm, it's not just say, well, it's only happening in Toronto. It's happening in
No,
every single
everywhere.
province across this country, and it's a certain age group. Most of them our boys, missing boys, are gone missing. So there is a pattern. You know what I mean? There's a pattern here. There's a pattern going on. And if this Black community doesn't see the danger that we're in, then it's a really sad case, man. But there is a pattern going on. And I'm surprised that law enforcement doesn't act on this pattern. It just shows you how much the very little attention that
But
these
we
missing kids.
can't get mad at law enforcement. This is something higher up. This is something higher up within what they're told that they can and can't do. Just like when they are called and they're given the description. How long have they been gone for? I've heard that before. What do you mean? If a child is out of their parents' eyesight for more than 4 hours, that's a missing child. They have to be missing for 24 hours?
Yeah, 24 to 48 hours. Even though, I don't think so long. Yeah, about that, 24 hours. For adults,
Do you know how far you can get in 24 hours?
Of course.
Do you know how far you can leave out of one country in 24 hours?
Of course, with human trafficking and all that going on, definitely. But there's a reason. I want to know the reason why it is only these Black teens that are being targeted, you know, and the Black community is quiet, and also is the media. Like, say if it was the same Black teens, but they were all robbing jewelry stores and they were all committing heinous crimes. You don't think that they would bring that on the news? They would.
Oh my goodness. Well, of course they would.
Sorry, Charm. Yeah.
You know they would. Anything I think is either it's one of those young rappers. They say they're always quick to televise when it's something bad that they do. Never televise nothing good that they do. And that's the absolute truth.
Of course. But could I tell you another truth to that? We're the same way. Well, in Canada anyway, let a Black business owner fall on their face, get busted or something. Everybody's sharing it, podcast, this, that, and we help to create more awareness to the downfalls of our community, more so than we promote the positivity, or in this case, the danger that Black teens are in right now in this country, because it's too much similarities in different locations of Canada for you not to begin to realize that this is a pattern, and it's not just one or two isolated incidents that you could say, well, they were out of luck. This is a pattern. There's something going on that so many kids roughly the same age, the same ethnic group are going missing. They're unaccounted for, and it's not televised, as what you just said. No.
It's not being taken serious.
Their
life is as precious as anyone else, any other group, any other ethnicity. Their life is just as precious. But see, like I said, they have that letter logging from that 1930s where their hand or the ink just stops working when it comes to certain information, because guess what? They're Black.
So don't you think that our Black community need to take it? Once we take it seriously and we charge those people, like with meaningful protests, petitions, getting in their face, just as what you said, you don't think that they'll start to take it seriously?
They have to. They have to, because now someone with common sense and someone that doesn't have blinders on that wants answers, and they have to give it. This is something logical. You're coming to them with you need to know answers.
Facts that are right there for everyone to go and see. This is not a conspiracy. It's not my theory. It's
Can these
actual.
people invite others? Wait, I'm sorry. Can these people that are invite others? I'm trying. Let's see.
Who would you like? Who do you want to invite?
He said he would like to add.
Clayton, I'll send the invite to you and you share it, pass it on.
I am.
Hold on, Charm. Okay, so Clayton, I've just sent you the live, so you send it on to others then, and see if they're able to. I'm not so familiar with Instagram Live.
I just took my hands off. I'm not even.
I know, but I'm trying.
No,
So,
Mama.
Clayton, I don't know if you could hear me. I just sent you a message in your inbox. So, go in your inbox.
I'm scared to touch anything.
If they're coming to the live and they want to come in and speak, then they just request to join. Let me see.
He said, okay, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so you see, another thing you see, like in the US, I was inviting you in, Clayton, to join if you're interested. But the US has America's Most Wanted. Like I know that if this was the US John Walsh, he would definitely, like, the pattern would be brought forth, you know.
I'm sorry when you said that.
Oh, with John Walsh. Oh, yes, I know why. And here we have what we call the Fifth Estate. The Fifth Estate is like America's Most Wanted in the U.S. You know.
Oh,
and
okay.
They haven't paid attention to this. They had and the rapid rate in which these teens are going missing, though, it's scary. It could happen to anybody, but there's not enough media attention, and there's not enough attention from the members of the Black community. They're not taking it very seriously, you know.
That's not healthy.
I know
it's not healthy. They have to find something they care about. You can't just walk around with your head up in the clouds like everything is okay and there's kids coming up missing. What, you don't care because it's not a part of your family member?
That's exactly it.
Oh, no, we have to find empathy again. Oh, no, don't say that.
That's exactly it. If it's not, it's the way that the Black community thinks here. Like, they're very biased. There's so many cliques, you know. If you don't belong to a certain clique, you're not gonna, they won't click that share button. And sometimes
Are you really telling me that?
I'm
No.
telling you. I'm telling you. And that is why our community is not taken very seriously, you know, by authorities, and you know what I mean? Because you have to take it serious first. If you come to my house and you see me stomping up and down on my sofa, you're gonna think, oh, I could stomp on it too. She doesn't seem to care about her sofa, you know? Someone named Dottie D can just join us. So anybody who has something to say, we're open to your opinion and what you have to share. Just request to join the live and I will accept it.
No, but you know, they gotta want it though. DJ Bubbles. This is coming to a point now where we can't just continuously just want materialistic things and not care about anything else. We can't, because the kids are the future. They
Yeah,
can
but
say what they
our
want. The kids are the future, and
and
us as
rightly
adults,
so.
we have to leave that. We have to go ahead and make that pavement and let them know they can use their voice to stand up and say something. Like, you know it's not right. You see that it's not right. Just don't whip out your phone and video. You know it's not right. Let's call the police. Let's make a stand. I got to make a change. We have to change something. Something has to change. It really does.
I
It really and
totally
truly does.
agree. I agree with you. But first,
Something has to
you have
change.
to care. Unfortunately, in Canada, it's the change only comes when the individual is going through what the person on the news is going through. And then they learn that there is no support from our community. I mean, if you on the news you see the Diwali celebration in Toronto, and
Mm-hmm.
those people got together and arrests were being made, even though they're arrested, whatever they're standing for, they have the courage and they care about each other enough to go out there in this freezing cold and do their thing, even if they're going to get in trouble. And I guess you're right. Like, if you see people that are activist minded or want to advocate with and for their community, they know that they're going to face a challenge, you know. Anything to bring forth change will open the gate to Pandora for every challenge that you could think of. But the Canadian Black community, they don't want change. They're not willing to go through those hoops and walk through the fire. It's like they try to fit into a puzzle that they don't belong in. They're an awkward piece that doesn't belong. It's not only with these missing boys, even within the music industry. You know, they do you what do you know about the Canadian awards up here? The, the States has the Grammys and the Oscars. Have you ever heard about the awards ceremony in Canada?
No, I can't remember. Do they
Okay,
have one?
so they do. It's called the Juno Awards. You see, like
Juno?
how every Juno, Juno. Everybody in the
Juno.
world knows every Juno. Everybody in the world knows every year they're gonna have the Oscars or they're gonna have the Grammys. But you are pretty upbeat and in tune with world events and what have you. Nobody knows a thing about the Canadian Junos. And can I tell you, although the Canadian Juno Awards has very little significance outside of Canada, that they show discrimination, like they have different musical categories, they divide them into genres. So the gospel genre, the reggae, um, black Black genres, their winnings and that ceremony is not televised. It's separated. But that part of the ceremony is not televised. And then you have people this year, this upcoming ceremony, they wanted to eliminate the reggae genre and the gospel genre. And that was the only time you saw people stand up and say, what? Da, 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 da. Who cares? You know, I mean, it's not like the Grammys where if you win, it helps you get known on a global scale, you know what I mean, or an international level. Why should Black people care if they eliminate the reggae genre or the gospel genre? We shouldn't care. It isn't televised at all. So that shows you that racism is very real, and the racism in Canada and discrimination speaks volumes, because the reggae genre is not a separate ceremony from the genre. We've seen Coffee win a Grammy Award, Damian Marley. You know what I mean? So tell me this is not a highly racist country if you're having a separate ceremony. If it's one Canada and you're so diverse, and every culture's contribution to the growth of Canada counts, why is it that your award ceremony is so divided into genres, and the genre which most Black people belong to, the reggae genre, why is that not televised? And then why would our Black community find that a very something that they find they should cry out and protest against, yet missing
They're so
Black
confused. You
children?
see what they'll speak out about? You see, that's when they'll find a voice. They will find a voice about them removing certain groups in a category in the award ceremony, but they won't speak up about them, the rent increase in the way how they're living, or excuse me, or the way how they're living and how the trash, this. It's just, our people have to do better.
I love
They
what
have
Clayton
to
just
want
said.
better.
We accept that. We accept it, and it is our fault. You know what I think would be great for the Juno Awards, that not even the states knows about the Juno Awards? If none of us nominated or planted ourselves in their racist practice every year.
They don't know anything about unity and boycotts. Look how many times people have told them, stay your behinds out of Walmart. They do not want you in there. They still go back in there. Down here in the States, now hold on, there's a restaurant. It speaks for itself. The name of it is called Cracker Barrel. If you're Black, they sit you in the corner. You'll probably sit there for 2-3 hours before anybody notice you. And if you take that food that comes from in the back of that kitchen, you're stupid. Okay? Because you don't know what they put in there. We have to learn. We want respect. We got to get it. We got to take back our respect, because they're not going to give it to us. We got to teach them.
Exactly.
You want our money. You want our money, but you don't want us to say anything. You want our money, but you don't want us to speak up. You want our money, but you want us to play dumb. Enough is enough. Like, enough is enough. We're tired and we're done. Like, come on. It's time for us to come together. Hey,
I like
cousins.
what you said.
Hey,
Boycott
cousins.
them.
Come on, cousins. All of you guys. Yeah, we are all cousins. Hey, cousins. We all need to come together.
That's
we really
right.
do.
And boycott them. That's what I'm saying. with the Juno Awards, that you weren't even aware that we have an award ceremony here in Canada every year. So even if as a Black person you win a Juno Award, you're not recognized outside of this country at all. So what are we crying about? We should be crying for those missing Black kids, that the RCMP does not regard them as a person, because you don't even give them their gender, their ethnicity, nor did you put their last name on your RCMP database for missing children. You gave it to the Asians, you gave it to the Aboriginals, you gave it to the Indigenous. Why is that information missing for the Black missing kids? Why? And these are questions that we need to ask ourselves, and then start to prioritize and start the boycotting, and really do just as what you said they do in the US. Protest, boycott, show them. I mean, you have non-Caribbean people winning an award in this country for a reggae award. And if you say something, the very same people from the Caribbean community will cuss you out. And I'm saying this based on experience.
Wait, pause. I thought I heard you right, but I might be a little bit slow. Did you say non-reggae artist is singing reggae music and still winning it?
Non-Caribbean, non-Jamaican, non-West Indian, non-Africans. A couple of years ago, a white gentleman, I won't call the name, won a Canadian Juno Award for the reggae category.
Okay, you just delivered it when you said that. Okay, I got it now. Gotcha.
And when I spoke out about it, the very same Caribbean community was vexed. Oh, don't talk about him. Don't blah, blah, blah. But I don't see UB40 winning Grammy Awards for the reggae category. We had, what's his name? Our Kabaka Pyramid won, Coffee won, Damian Marley has won. I didn't see UB40 in that in the winnings. But you see, that's the difference between Canada, the Blacks here in the north, and the Blacks across the border from us. We don't operate the same. We don't think about boycotting. We don't think about letting them have it because it's not for us. If they respected the Black community, could you tell me why they wouldn't televise the reggae ceremony, the gospel ceremony? Why is it only that ceremony that's not televised, and there's a separate ceremony? What does that tell you about Canada?
You have a heavy load. A bunch of boycotting need to be handled, starting with everything that y'all not liking, the televised, of not showing something that you connect with. I have a problem with it. What am I watching it for then if you're not going to show country? If you're not, I don't know if y'all have country music there. If y'all have, well, you just said reggae, so of course that's worldwide. So of course you have country, because Jelly Roll is coming to Toronto. So that tells me y'all have country music. So therefore, it's the person that's delivering the message, or is it just in a hole that they don't want to have them?
It's downright racism. That's all I could think. There's no other logical explanation on their part. But on our part, it's a lack of self-love, self-worth, and pride. We should know reggae artists from the West Indian community, no gospel artists from the West Indian or African community should attend, and we shouldn't nominate each. Like, say, for example, you were a reggae artist. I'm not nominating you. I don't want to hear or care about your genomes. Let the world finally see that Canada is made up of some very racist people.
Let me ask you a question. You asked me a question at the beginning of this. You also lived in the United States
I did.
when you were younger. We lived in a diverse area. We had Africans, Cubans. We had it all in our area where we lived when we were younger. Racism is something so new. I'm having a hard time. How are you dealing with all of this now coming up to a head?
Well, the older I get, the more difficult it becomes. But you see, we know that racism has always been there. It's a societal issue. It's systemic. It's embedded in our society. You know what I mean? So it's not something that we're not born into. We're born as Black people. We are born into racism, discrimination, microaggression. But what gets to me the older I get is the lack of effort, not so much on part of the Blacks situated in the US. It's the lack of care and effort on part of the Canadian Black community to get up and take action and advocate for change. It's like we discriminate against each other and we fight each other more than we fight the people who allow systemic racism. We don't fight against the people that allow racism to be an integral part of this society. That's what gets to me. That is, the older I get, it's like, whoa, what is wrong with these people? It's right there. It's a systemic issue. And the only way it's going to change is if you no longer accept it anymore. It's just like this 12-step program for alcoholics. The first thing you do, the first step is you have to admit that you're an alcoholic.
Boom.
And nobody's willing to step forth and say, yo, our Black community in Canada needs to do better. We need to love ourselves. We need to unite. Because right now, it isn't about not being a part of the Juno Awards or not getting that job. Our Black children are going missing. And it is a pattern. You know why? It's not just in one particular city. If you go on that database and you research all of the 10 provinces, there's missing Black kids within the same age group. So something is going on that the government, law enforcement doesn't care to create awareness. We're in danger. We are not safe. Our children are not safe in this country. And there's no media awareness on this, nothing. And then on our part, as the Black community, we're just sitting in complacency. So it's deeper than just the normal exposure to racism. These kids are missing. Where did they go? Why is it that it's only this certain targeted Black population, mostly male, mostly teenagers, and no sort of public awareness of this. It's
So would
serious.
you say, as a parent, it would be faster enough for you to do your own footwork versus relying on the police? Then that's what you're saying?
Well, we should, but when they scrape out our taxes that they dig off our paychecks is paying the salaries for these policemen. And then you're right, like some Black people in Canada, they don't want to be seen as like a activist or advocating too hard for their people because they don't want to be shunned at the office, or they don't want
A
their neighbors to be
troublemaker.
right. They just want to go with the flow. Like, we're not on the plantation anymore. You can speak. Okay, you'll lose a friend. Okay, they're not going to say, hey, Charm, come and have lunch with us. Who cares? You have to recognize that it could be your child, your grandchild. We are all
Mm-hmm.
in danger.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the message I'm trying to convey. It isn't about Bubbles. Yo, she's just trying to get likes and views. It isn't that. I've got a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old grandchildren. I have 4 boys. It could be them. It could be you. And the Black
Me,
community.
ma,
Me.
what they want with me? Me all sit
I
on
know.
there. Listen, I'ma give them a run for their money at 53. You run up on me, I'ma bop you. I'm not gonna let you just take me. No, but I understand what you're saying. What we do. You're absolutely correct. And it is,
We're in danger
they need,
because
they very much so.
yeah, and I don't even think the Black community.
What
They
can
don't
you do
want
as a PCA? What would you?
to look. They need to do their due diligence and find out
Mm-hmm.
why is it only a certain age group? Why are they only going after the Black boys? And this is it's not like it's a pattern, it's a trend, and it's something really big if that same pattern and trend is all across Canada.
Okay,
Because
so we first need to find out from a police officer, right? We have to figure out when an Amber Alert is put out, what information are you guys are allowed to ask, and what information are you allowed to put out? Because somewhere somebody's dropping something. I can't just say it's all the police. Yes, they're lazy. They might be, but the same way the community helps solve these shootings and stuff, the community see what's going on, and the community needs to open up their mouth and tell what's going on. They see, open their mouth. After these police officers don't be really solving crimes, it's some nosy neighbor that saw something and gave up the information, and that's how the crimes are solved. Come on, you guys.
Okay, listen. It's called criteria. So the Amber Alert started in Texas when that little girl named Amber was abducted. She went missing. And apparently it was her father that unalived her. So Amber Alert is a mutual service or procedure or option for missing kids, the same as it is in the US and Canada. But I did, last week I researched what is the criteria for them to issue an Amber Alert. One, you have to be under 18. So
wow.
all them Black kids in the database, they meet at least one of the criteria, they're under 18. Why didn't you issue Amber Alert? Why is it not on the news? And why is it only our Black kids that are not receiving that level of I don't know if you want to call it service, but why isn't the fact that these kids are missing, why isn't it not being taken seriously? Here's where Black Lives Matter Canada would be wonderful, but they're not saying anything either. And the reason why a lot of these entities that are funded and situated into the community is to assist the Black community, empower them, and help the community. But most of these entities, like Black Lives Matter Canada, I'm just going to say it straight. They're in it for the funding that they're entitled to. So they're not really going to get up and get out there the way Black Lives Matter would in the US, or the double N NNACP would in the US. Right, because they're dependent on the government, on the same system that is doing wrong by us. They're depending on them for funding. So they know if they really get out there and start encouraging boycotting, protests, and not just saying, oh, we need, like getting these answers and getting these kids found, or at least investigating to find out who is behind all these missing Black teens. They know that they're going to face reprisals. So they don't want to lose their funding, Charm. And that's the sad part of it.
So somebody's life is over imbalanced with funding.
It's
Okay.
it's a reality though. That's
ugly.
It's a reality up here in our Black community. They get funding, they write the right words and apply for funding, they get it, but if they want to continue getting that money to put in their pocket, they have to be compliant. That means you keep your mouth shut, and there's only so much that you do to make an effort to empower your community, the Black community in which you've endeavored and qualified to get money to do. They're not doing it.
Wow. That's a tough ticker right there. That one right there is a tough ticker. That's a tough ticker.
And in our community, Charm, it happens in various components of our community. In the entertainment industry, like we have so many festivals and stuff, and the promoters and that, they apply for funding and grants, but they don't involve the entire community. They don't involve the entire community. They won't do it because they're greedy and money hungry. It's just like with reggae music. You see how when I would frequent the US, as you know, I lived there when I was younger, temporarily, and you turn on the radio, you're going to get a variety, hip hop, reggae, you know, on commercially owned radio stations. Here in Canada, you only hear reggae on a consistent basis on community radio stations. Community radio stations have lower frequency, and if you go to certain parts of the city, you won't be able to hear it clearly. We've only achieved, in all of Canada, there was only one commercially owned Caribbean station where they weren't depending on the community. It was like an actual real life standalone commercially operated radio station. We had that before. Sadly, the owner died, and his dream of implementing independency in the Black community died with him. Because when he died, nobody from our Black community stepped forward to say, let us not see another Black man's dream die. Let's keep it going. Nobody stepped forth. So when he died, a Punjabi man, Indian person, is now the proud owner of a station that a Black man worked hard to establish. Isn't that sad? So that's where
Girl,
it's at.
you didn't. What? I'll tell you what I think after we end this, okay, on that one. Now, you just...
Right, it's heartbreaking. But I just want to thank everyone who joined us on our live today. Hopefully we can do this again. But my
Yeah,
first
we have to
priority,
reach.
exactly. My first priority are those missing teenagers. The first priority is that we need to stand together as one community and demand answers why that only Black children in a certain age group all across the country are missing, and there's very little attention from the police and mainstream media. That's all I have to say. You done know. All right, Charm,
I
thank you so much.
appreciate you giving me this time, Vanessa.
I appreciate you too, Miss Charm. You done know. Big up yourself, and Happy New Year in advance.
One love.
One love, my girl. One love. Now I just have to figure out how to end the line. Oh, wait, you left. How, oh my God, how do I end live? No requests. Sorry, everybody.